Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland, Superstar Ultra, Return to Dreamland Deluxe, and Starcross World. Can I 100% all 4 of these games in 2 measly days? Let's find out. This video is also brought to you by Squarespace, but more on that later. And here we go, starting with the first of many Kirby remakes. To 100% this, I need to hit all 17 big switches and complete the normal and extra game. I'll also be unlocking Boss Endurance and Meta Nightmare, but those don't add to the save file, so I won't be playing those. Now this is one of the strangest marathon videos I've done because I've kind of already played these games. I 100% all the mainline Kirby titles about a year ago and thought it would be interesting to try to do the same thing but with only the remakes since they were omitted previously. I also wanted to figure out if I prefer the remakes over the originals, and this one is a bit more contentious. Nightmare in Dreamland is a remake of Kirby's Adventure on the NES if you weren't aware, and I hear a lot of people say that they prefer the original one. While I do think it has its charms, I honestly like this one a bit more because it runs smoother and looks nicer. It uses the same pixel art from Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, and that's one of my favorite Kirby games of all time. Although it's not a perfect remake, the biggest flaw to me is the bosses. For whatever reason, they're way easier and take almost no time to defeat. For half of these bosses, you can stand in one place and they just accept their defeat. I know this is a Kirby game, but they're actually just a joke to fight. The minigames are pretty cool though. I've always liked Kirby's air grind the best. Trying to time out your acceleration over the grind rails is a lot of fun. I can appreciate that we got a couple of new minigames instead of all of them being remakes from Kirby's Adventure. I'm also really bad at Bomb Rally, I'm not gonna lie. Dude, look at how disappointed Kirby looks. He's just like, damn, that's all I could do? Also, you can float in the air by pushing A now instead of being forced to push up. Thank God for that too. And look at this. In the museum, you can view the copy abilities for free! Oh yeah, I love the emphasis on free. But alas, the 100% requirements are pretty easy. Finding the big switches isn't all that difficult, but it does have to be done in both the normal and extra game. Some of these switches are in slightly tricky spots, but they're not much of an adventure to find. The only annoying ones were a couple big switches that required the hammer. If you don't have it equipped, then you're going to be going back to a previous level to get one. The big switch in 6-3 has some steps to it, but nothing really compares to the rainbow drops from Kirby's Dreamland 2. That was actually hell. But it doesn't matter. After smacking the skivvy out in Nightmare, the normal game was complete. And then we moved on to the extra game, which is exactly the same but more challenging. The only real difference is having 3 health points instead of 6, as the bosses don't change at all. It's a little annoying having to get all the big switches again, but it's also not the end of the world, seeing as this is a pretty short adventure. There's a slight difference with the NES one too. Progress does not save if you turn the game off, but it does in Nightmare in Dreamland. This makes a lot of sense considering we're on a Game Boy Advance, and it would suck to get 3 hours in and then the batteries explode. So after getting more game overs and pegging the tornado with my Star Rod again, I 100% Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland in 4 hours and 33 minutes. While this game was pretty easy, the rest of the ones on the docket aren't gonna prove otherwise. One of the most underrated Kirby games of all time. To 100% this, I need to complete all game modes, find all 60 treasures in the Great Cave Offensive, and find all 19 Copy Essence Deluxe pedestals and Milky Way wishes. The only minigames that don't add to the save file are the touchscreen minigames, but they don't have much depth to begin with regardless. Now, I absolutely love Kirby Superstar on the original SNES, and the DS remake improves it in every way possible. It adds more content, improves the controls and camera, and even has less screen crunch, which is surprising for the DS. Right away, we start off with Spring Breeze, and I'm loving these cutscenes. While they are insanely compressed to fit on the DS cartridge, it's really charming to see 3D animation like this from such a long time ago. They still look pretty decent for the time. And if you don't know this somehow, this mode is just a remake of the original Kirby's Dreamland. Or I guess you could say this is a remake, technically speaking. Yeah, we're getting real meta over here. Adding in proper copy abilities makes this so much more fleshed out and fun. The best part of Spring Breeze was stun locking King King DDD and watching him shoot out of the castle afterwards in glorious 144p 3D. I decided to do Gourmet Race real quick, because why not? It's a fun little mode where you have to race King DDD to the end while eating food and going fast. The music's still a bop, and it was over in like 5 minutes. That's right, DDD. You sit in that corner of shame. Yeah, you think about what you've done. You fuck. After that was Dynablade, which was not much harder. The levels are unique and a bit longer, and the only things I had to watch out for were 2 different big switches to unlock bonus levels. Except they're not levels. It's just trial rooms that hold all the copy abilities if you really wanted a specific one. I also like how the bottom screen shows the entire map of levels that you have to do. It doesn't really serve much purpose, but it's handy to be able to peek at where you're at all times. Not that it matters though, because after 5 levels, you're already taking on Dynablade, and he goes down like it's nothing. The cutscene was a little interesting, because the music reminded me of the song Hallelujah, and all I could think of was that sad montage scene from Shrek. Why do I always relay everything to that series of movies? I swear I'm not trying to do this. But anyway, it was time for the Great Cave Offensive, the real meat of Superstar Ultra. Finding all 60 treasures is no easy feat. This is basically a Metroidvania where the paths split up in multiple ways and you have to find your way around to get everything. While the level design remains the same from the original SNES version, some of the treasures have updated names. Instead of the Zebra Mask, you have the Phantom Mask. Rice Bowl was changed to Broken Bowl, and there's a few others as well. Another change is the bottom screen. It has a map and it shows what area that you're currently in, which is super handy considering how big the Great Cave Offensive is. Not having to pause to get a general idea of your location is really nice. While you could blast through most of this mode pretty quickly, it's so much more enjoyable to go through and find all the treasures. A lot of them are hidden in really obscure and tricky spots. Most people know that Kirby games are easy, but they never seem to remember the other side of the coin when going for 100%. A good example of this is the King's Cape treasure. To get this one, you need the stone and cutter ability to smash a stump and cut a rope to reach it. The only way to really do this is for one of the helpers to be one of those abilities. Getting through the rooms to reach this part isn't that hard, but the helper seems to think otherwise. This dumb clanker kept running into enemies and dying, and I had to keep recollecting either stone or cutter, which forced me to backtrack a bunch of times. What kind of help is this, helper? I probably should have spent more time killing the enemies in front of me so the helper wouldn't get hit, but it seemed to intentionally run into them because I don't know why. I don't know why he was doing that. Oh, and don't even get me started on the katana. You have to battle through blazing winds and magically time an attack from the ninja to break through and sneak down to the bottom. Reaching this chest doesn't look that bad, but believe me, you change your mind if you actually tried it yourself. What makes it even better is if you mess up and go to this top platform, the crash enemy respawns every time, making it more likely that you'll hit him when you try again. But overall, it's just time consuming to find everything. After getting all 60 treasures and fighting Nintendo's 89th rendition of a hand boss, the Great Cave Offensive was finished. Yo, look at all that gold. Kirby's cashing out, dude. Following that was Revenge of the Meta Knight, a little game where you blast through the halberd and infiltrate Meta Knight's army. It's pretty much exactly the same as the SNES one, except that all the dialogue is on the bottom screen, and some new cutscenes are added, of course. You know, it would be fascinating to see these cutscenes in the original quality. I hope someone at Nintendo leaks those videos someday. After destroying Meta Knight and his awesome ship, I was done and ready to move on to Milky Way Wishes. This mode is similar to the others, but instead of getting copy abilities from enemies, you have to instead find the copy essence that are hiding around the levels. You then use the touchscreen and pick any ability you found along the way. I honestly love this concept and wish that more Kirby games would try to do this. It's a refreshing take on the formula and really encourages you to explore. I also really like how the boss refights are all harder versions, so it's not quite as repetitious. The only difficult essence to find, and I say that in quotations, is the copy ability. In the original game, you have to click on this tiny green dot and you'll enter a level that has it, but in Superstar Ultra, it's been changed to a flashing star, so I guess it's a little bit more obvious. After destroying a lab and punching marks in the balls a few times, we were done with Milky Way Wishes. Up next is Revenge of the King, the first new batch of content that was introduced in Superstar Ultra. The idea here is that you're playing levels based on Spring Breeze, and the enemies are a lot harder, and there's a new color palette. It's at this point that the levels actually start to get a bit harder, and the bosses require more effort than usual. When you get to Castle DDD, you do a bunch of mid-boss refights, and I really like this change a lot. Spending quality time rummaging and battling through the castle that leads up to King DDD really adds to the experience, and on top of that, the enemies take extra hits too. So sometimes it made more sense to just avoid them and save my health. I really appreciate that this mode is genuinely a step up in difficulty, because the extra modes in most Kirby games is the same thing but with less health. The funniest part of this game is that when you're in the castle, Waddle Dee is managing DDD's orders to try to keep Kirby at bay, but once you get close to the end, the Waddle Dee has to fight Kirby himself. That's hilarious. And oh my god, the Mask DDD battle is sick! What an awesome design and really stellar boss battle overall. This is a fantastic mode, and we're not even done yet. Meta Nightmare Ultra was next, and it's your usual Meta Knight game where you play through previous levels at a fast pace. This mode in particular works really well because of how many varied game modes there are. It's split up between Spring Breeze, Dynablade, Milky Way Wishes, and so on. You can also use the touchscreen to use a powerful Mach Tornado, summon help, go faster, or heal. And honestly, I almost exclusively heal because Meta Knight is already super powerful. It's a smart way to use the touchscreen too, considering you won't be using these moves very often, and you have to collect and build up these meta points to use them anyway. In terms of getting 100%, there's not many secrets to find. My favorite part is replaying Meta Nightmare. He f***s up his own battleship, and he just watches it collapse into the water at the end like it meant nothing to him. 10 out of 10 cinema. And you can't forget, you fight Galactonite at the end. Oh man, he's so cool looking. He's got majestic wings, a giant pink carrot for a sword, and a sick looking shield. What an incredible game this is. I'm a bit sad that it's almost over. So what's left to do? Well, we've got the arena modes and Helper to Hero. When I played the arena on the original SNES version, I was struggling pretty hard with it. There's not a lot of room for error or mistakes, so I was worried about losing a bunch of time trying to complete both of these arenas. All that I remember from before was that the hammer was the best weapon due to its sheer strength, so that's what I went in with. And, I beat it on the first try? Okay, hold on. This was much harder on the SNES. I have no idea how I pulled that off. Maybe they toned down the difficulty and saved it for the true arena. But before tackling that, I had to beat Helper to Hero still, so I did that real quick. It's very similar to the arena, but you play as one of the enemies instead of Kirby. If you ask me, this is almost the same thing except that you can't swap abilities in between battles, and you play the bosses in the same order. I guess this kind of warrants being its own mode, but it's definitely the weakest one out of all the new content because it doesn't offer much beyond that. At least there's one new boss, which is Wham Bam Jewel, a different variant of Wham Bam Rock. He's got some harder attack patterns, so I guess that's something. But once that was wrapped up, it was finally time for the true arena. And yep, they weren't f***ing around. Not only do you have less health in between each match, but each boss are the newer, harder ones introduced in Superstar Ultra. This was kicking my ass pretty hard, I'll be honest. You have to fight Mask DDD, Wham Bam Jewel, Galactonite, and a new boss, Mark Soul as the final four. Yeah, I brought this up in the previous marathon too, but Kirby games and their obsession with souls will never not amuse me. It took a few tries, but I also managed to get through the true arena and was finally done. 100% in Kirby Superstar Ultra took me a total of 6 hours and 57 minutes to complete, which shockingly is a couple hours faster than the SNES version, but I think that's because I got through the arena with less struggle this time. But up next is our longest and most different remake thus far. Man, I'm excited to play this game again. It's so freaking good. To 100% this, I need to collect all 120 energy spears in the main and extra mode, beat all the challenge stages, complete all 100 Mary Magaland missions and 20 true extra missions, beat the Magalore epilogue and extra stage, clear the arena, and clear the true arena. I have my work cut out with me with this one. This remake of the Wii classic goes above and beyond. The graphics have been updated and look much sharper. There's several new minigames with achievements, and there's an entirely new mode that changes how Kirby plays. I went into this pretty excited. While I find Return to Dreamland on Wii to be pretty boring to 100% since you have to play the game twice in a row, at least this version looks nicer. And not just that, but we've also got 2 new copy abilities thrown in, Sand and Mecha. Both of these abilities are a lot of fun and are also quite powerful. You can throw and spew sand in multiple directions, and Mecha lets you fly around and charge your laser shots. After getting about 30 minutes into the main game, I'm not gonna lie, I was getting a bit bored. I've played this campaign like 5 or 6 times already, and I was about to add 2 more playthroughs to that. The new abilities definitely help freshen things up, and I do like the updated art style, but it's still the same adventure again. It's very simplistic, and even the energy spears are easy to get. At least you unlock things with the spears. I mean, I know you did that before, but like you unlock more mini-games this time. I guess it makes it feel a little more worth it outside of the obligatory 100% goal. And speaking of the challenge stages, there's new ones for the sand and mecha abilities. They did not have to go out of their way and make new stages for them, but I greatly appreciate that. So after clearing those out, I was done with the main game. I could have started the extra game, but I really didn't feel like it, so I decided to begin Merry Magoland instead, a completely revamped mode that adds in 10 mini-games, the most a Kirby game has ever had. This is one of my favorite parts of this remake, as it recreates a bunch of the best minigames from older Kirby titles. In fact, it gets extra meta, as some of these minigames are exclusive to other remade Kirby titles like the ones we played earlier in this video. As you're going through Merry Magoland, you'll unlock dress-up masks that you can slap on Kirby for extra style. My favorite one has to be the Kirby mask. A Kirby mask on Kirby. That is absolutely hilarious. You unlock most of these masks by filling out these stamps, which is done through getting Maglore tickets in the main game, as well as playing minigames and tackling the missions. Now, the missions are the reason this mode is so fun. Plenty of them are genuinely tough, and I already know it'll take quite a while to complete. But real quick, let's talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. This is the best and most powerful place to create the slickest websites. New to Squarespace is the Fluid Engine, a next-generation design system that makes it even easier to make a website. There's also Squarespace extensions that connect your store to vetted third-party tools to extend functionality, and the analytics page makes it easy to see who's visiting your site and where people are coming from. I've updated my site this year and added a small blogging section, where I'll write a bit about any specific game I've played. This month, I've written about Dragon Drive. So with that, go to squarespace.com/Nathaniel to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. The link is in the description. The first one I played was Crackety Hack, which comes from Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. You basically have to build up strength, jump into the air, and time your button press so the cursor aligns perfectly with a rock. It's surprisingly hard to do at the harder levels because your timing has to be extremely precise, and the speed of the cursor changes as you go. The hardest one for Crackety Hack was winning twice in a row on level 3, but it wasn't too bad. Once you clear all the missions, you unlock alternate music. Oh, dude, I love how much unlockables have been added in. It makes the missions feel so rewarding and fun to tackle since you're constantly getting stuff for putting in the effort. After that was Smash Ride, which comes from Kirby Squeak Squad. It's one of the easier ones, to be honest. You just have to smash into other players and get points and try not to fall off. It's almost like Street Smash from Smash for 3DS. Huh, Nintendo sure loves smashing, don't they? The missions overall weren't too bad, and after that I tackled Booming Blasters, which is unique to Dreamland Deluxe. The idea here is you shoot lasers at your foes and have to survive the longest. Most of these missions weren't too hard either, although it was a bit tough nailing the overhead shots mission. These shots arch over obstacles, but also have a wide reach, so it's kind of hard to aim. After that was Kirby on the Draw, which originated from Kirby Superstar Ultra. The idea is pretty simple. You shoot down a bunch of enemy cutouts as they pop up on screen. You can use motion controls if you want, but I figured the joystick would be faster and more accurate. The only tricky mission was getting 700 points in level 3. While I was pretty fast with my aiming, the CPUs at this point would lock the in and hit targets before I could even process that they appear. So to get 700 points, I needed to get a little lucky with the targets I picked and not make any mistakes. Getting King DDD, Meta Knight, and Magalore was crucial, as they were worth way more points than all the other targets. It took quite a few attempts, but I eventually knocked that mission out and could move on. Following that was Ninja Dojo, a minigame that actually comes from the Wii's Return to Dreamland. Thankfully, you don't have to throw the Joy-Con, but you can push A to time the Ninja Star throw, as the goal is to get as close to the middle as the target as possible. These missions weren't that hard either, as it mostly required a lot of different bullseyes. Next was Bomb Rally, which we've already seen as it comes from Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. It's significantly easier now since the screen is way more spread out, and I found that timing the bomb hit was a little more generous too. It's also a little silly that you use the A button to hit the bomb and A to reverse the direction of your hit. How many times do I need to say this, Nintendo? You have plenty of buttons on your controller! You're allowed to use more! Dude, I swear, Nintendo's actually scared of the buttons. Even Sakurai in the Kirby Air Riders Direct said, unfortunately, we had to use another button for items. Like, Guys, what did the buttons ever do to you? Did they attack your family or something? Not that it really matters for a game like this, it's just needlessly confusing and silly. But now we move on to Checkerboard Chase. Oh my god, I love this one. So good. This has always been my favorite of all the Kirby minigames. You blast lines of color down a path to try to make your opponents fall. Oh, so much fun. And I can't believe it got a remake, especially since it's from Kirby 64, a game Nintendo never talks about. I didn't have any trouble with these missions whatsoever. I was just having a nostalgic blast for a hot minute. You can even unlock a high-speed mode, which makes Checkerboard Chase even more frantic and fun. The devs really went all out with this remake. It doesn't even feel real sometimes. After that was Magolor's Tome Trackers, which is another minigame unique to this title. The idea here is to pick up books that are the same color and shape that Magolor shows. While this sounds easy on the surface, this was one of the most difficult minigames to get all missions complete for. When you get to level 3, the CPUs are fast and pick up books way faster than you can see them. The second half of the minigame also throws a million books on screen, and you have almost no time to react when Magolor shows off the shape. And they want me to get 18 books? Are you kidding me? The only way I could possibly complete this mission was to get a bunch of books at the beginning. With the time allotted, I had to memorize where the colors were, and as soon as Magolor revealed the book, I would instantly head towards the area that had the most of that color before even looking at the shape itself. I played this minigame so much that I figured out that Magolor's pattern was generally picking books from left to right over and over again, but it wasn't perfectly consistent. This took a lot of tries, but I eventually got 18 and cleared all the missions. Next was Samurai Kirby, which is actually in a few different Kirby titles. You can play it in Kirby Superstar, Superstar Ultra, and Nightmare in Dreamland, although it was renamed to Quick Draw in that one. Literally, all you do is push A when the game says so, and yeah, that's it. It's the lamest minigame of them all, and I don't know why they keep remaking it. As long as you have fast reflexes, you can beat this game. Meta Knight was pretty tough at first, but otherwise these missions were a breeze. And last but not least is Egg Catcher, which comes from Kirby's Adventure. I've always enjoyed this one, and it's really cool to see it get a remake. The idea is to eat eggs and avoid bombs, and that's about it. But when you get to level 3, the eggs and bombs come in at different speeds, and it can be really hard to tell when to eat and not to eat. But regardless, I cleared all these missions, but wasn't quite done yet. There were still some extra missions to do, and most of these were really simple. Use a mask in a level, use a souvenir item, talk to Magolor, compete in Samurai Kirby 100. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about this either. It's kind of an online version of Samurai Kirby. It's pretty much the same thing again, but you compete with 100 people. It sounds like a cool idea, but it's not in real time, so like, Oh yeah, and I also got to do the Magoland tours too. This takes 4 of the 10 minigames, and you play them like it's a Grand Prix in Mario Kart. Just win the most amount of times for the most points, and that's about it. What's cool about this is some of the minigames add in multiplayer even if you're playing by yourself, like with Samurai Kirby as an example. It was at this point that I figured I might as well tackle the extra mode so I could knock out the mask and souvenir item mission real quick, and then just play the rest of it. And honestly, there's not much to say. You have less health, the bosses are harder with some altered attacks, the walls in the other dimension move faster, and the enemies are a little tougher. It might sound like a lot of changes, but the overall gameplay feels the same. And since I just played a ton of Merry Magoland, I had a boatload of souvenir items. I used these in the later stages just so I could tank more enemy hits and not have to spend precious time fighting or avoiding battles. I wouldn't even mind doing this again if I didn't have to get all 120 energy spears as well. That's the real kicker. It just feels completely pointless to me. And I had to do the challenge stages again as well. The only notable thing worth mentioning here is the Magolor Soul Battle. It's a bit harder with some new attacks and stuff, but yep, I 100% the extra mode with a resounding neat. That's like, what, the 7th or 8th time I've beaten this? Once that was done, I tried the Samurai Kirby 100 again, got the achievement, and was done with all 100 missions. Now it was time to unlock the final 20 true extra missions. And what I really like about this is if you already did some of these missions, they unlock for you automatically. I still had 13 to go, and these didn't seem too bad. Oh no. Win with a score of 20 or more points in Magolor's Tome Trackers. Oh god, it was a struggle getting 18 points. How am I gonna get more than that? That's a problem I'll think about later. For now, I wanted to start tackling the missions I had left. For Samurai Kirby 100, I needed to get in the top 10, and somehow managed to do that on the first try. Well, that wasn't so bad. I might as well try out the other Samurai Kirby mission I'm missing. While playing solo, defeat 5 rivals 2 times in a row without faulting on hard. Oh yeah, I got this in the bag. What the f? How does Meta Knight always beat me? I guess I'll come back to that later. So I tackled a few other missions without much trouble. Once I got to Crackety Hack though, oh boy. I needed to win 3 times in a row on hard mode, which doesn't sound like much of a problem, but then you actually try to do it, and holy crap, I could win 1 or 2 times in a row, but nailing that cursor timing at the end is not easy. The reason it's so hard is you really do have to play almost perfectly, because the CPUs tend to play almost perfectly as well. I was at this mission for what felt like forever before finally clearing it. It was kicking my ass. After clearing out some more missions, another tough one was win a level 3 tour without losing even once. While I can easily place first in the Magellan Tour, getting first in all 4 games was no easy feat. Some of these minigames get a lot harder when playing with multiple people at once. A perfect example of this is Ninja Dojo. This one is not that difficult solo because I can easily track the targets and time out my button press, but that completely changes when multiple people are throwing ninja stars at once. It just throws me off for some reason, and the same with Egg Catcher. The smaller screen shouldn't be harder, but my peripheral gets distracted by the other characters also playing, and you really need full focus to get first place. So what I had to do was keep resetting the tour until it picked 4 games I knew I was good at, and then just hope for the best and try not to choke. But it just kept happening. I was making small mistakes, not getting first place every time, and started to get a little disheartened. I had to take a break from it, and decided to tackle the arena. If you remember the strategy from the Wii version with the tornado, well, it still works perfectly in the remake. You just spam the tornado over and over again, and make sure Kirby is away from attacks when he's vulnerable for a second or 2. When that was done, I went back to Samurai Kirby and... Dude, what the hell am I supposed to do? Frustrated, I switched to Magolor's book club to go for the 20-point mission, and I got it in 5 minutes. Okay, don't ask how. I'm too busy being a brainiac reading gamer, I guess. I actually have no idea how I did that. Afterwards, I went back to Magellan Tour and eventually got that mission. So all that was left was beating Samurai Kirby on hard 2 times in a row. But holy crap, this seemed literally impossible until I looked up and found a Reddit comment that explained how Meta Knight works. Most of the characters in this minigame have a set amount of frames they wait before striking, and I can usually hit A around 15 to 16 frames. Meta Knight, however, does not work like this. He actually adapts to your speed and gets better every time you fight him. So in the first round, if I beat him at 15 frames, the next round Meta Knight will come out at 14 frames. The only solution I could think of doing was to purposefully make Meta Knight attack slowly. The plan was to purposefully lose over and over until he was slow enough to beat, and I got him down to 24 frames. At that point, I would purposefully win by going as slow as possible on the first round, and then push A as fast as I could on the second round, and oh my god, I finally did the mission! I can't believe I've spent like 10 to 15 minutes talking about minigames, but this was some of the hardest Kirby content I've 100% in quite a while. But now, I've saved the best for last, the Magolor Epilogue, or in other words, the Bowser's Fury mode for Kirby. You play as Magolor and collect magic points as you defeat enemies. The idea here is to chain combos and collect more and more points. Doing this allows you to upgrade Magolor's skills like longer floating, better attacks, and things like that. So many games have skill trees now that feel slapped on, but this one is done really well. You can actually feel the difference between each upgrade, and Magolor controls way different compared to Kirby. He doesn't bounce when he's hitting the ground, and he kinda just floats all the time and has a lot of new attack options that you normally can't do. Even though the bosses are reused, they all have completely different attacks, so they feel fresh to fight. Although Master Crown is brand new. This is basically a big-ass tree with an eyeball in the middle. Yeah, you know, just the regular Tuesday in the Kirby boss department. This mode is simply awesome, and 100%ing it isn't too difficult. You basically have to play all the levels and get gold medals by getting a high enough score. You probably won't do this at first, but once you've upgraded your skill tree enough, revisiting levels and chaining together huge combos feels awesome. I started to get a bit fatigued doing this, and decided to work on the True Arena next. This includes all the remix bosses, and even the ones from Magolor's Epilogue. I'd say this was hard, but I also used the tornado, so, you know. Although, okay, technically I used sand at first, because ducking makes you completely invincible. While this isn't a bad strategy, it was also much harder to hit enemies. Once the tornado showed up in between fights, I grabbed that instead and sailed through the rest. But yeah, back to the epilogue. It took me quite a while to get all the gold medals, but doing so unlocks an extra stage. And this one is a bit bizarre. It basically ties together a bunch of the dimension levels from the original game into one, and it's like 20 minutes long. It's not exactly the most interesting idea, but I guess playing playing through it with Magolor is a bit different. Once that was done though, I finally 100% the entire game. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe took a total of 20 hours and 55 minutes to complete. I knew it was going to take a long time, but I didn't realize how long I would spend working on those missions. But now, it's time for one more game. This counts as a remake, right? Right? To 100% this, I need to complete all 12 Star-Crossed World levels, find all 120 Starries, clear the Ultimate Cup ZX, and collect all 86 X figures. Before starting, you may argue that this isn't really a remake, it's just DLC for Forgotten Land. But hear me out though, all the new content is technically remaking older levels, so close enough. Since this is a Switch 2 edition upgrade, there really isn't that much content to play. I still have over 15 hours to go. I can't imagine this will take very long, especially since the loading times have improved so much, and the game runs at a solid 60 FPS. And I didn't even mind the Switch 1 version running at 30, but I don't think I can go back after feeling the buttery smooth 60. To save time, I played these new levels with my 100% save file, and that was so I wouldn't have to spend time unlocking the other levels or upgrading my copy abilities again. When it comes to the new levels, they take a really interesting approach. By breaking these rainbow gems, new platforms were built, and you replay the level in a completely new way. 100%ing the levels is the same process as before, but instead of finding the Waddle Dees, you have to collect Lumas, excuse me, the Starries. Since this was my first time playing this game, I had to replay every level at least twice to find everything, as I would always miss a few Starries on the way. And seeing as these are beefy levels, it added a couple hours of time on its own, but I had plenty of time to work with. I also really liked all 3 Mouthful abilities. Spring Kirby is like a really refined version of Spring Mario. Gear Kirby adds a new sense of verticality that wasn't in the original game and was fun to use. And Sign Kirby was my favorite. There's a few different sliding sections where you fly down a hill, and my head kept replaying the Mario 64 slider music. The new Elphalus form is cool too. Now, just give me a second, let me attempt to pronounce this name. You guys know how good I am at saying words. Okay, here we go. Parastella Crystallis Genwell Midion Elphalus. I don't know if I nailed it. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, this final boss has new attacks, and also a phase where it grows extra big. Can't say I'm surprised there, Nintendo loves making stuff big. And after that, you fight an eyeball for a little bit, and the main campaign is over. While it's fairly short, I think it's still pretty solid. I definitely prefer Magolor's epilogue over Star-Crossed World when it comes to new content from a remake, but this wasn't too bad. Next, I started to work on the figures. And this system is the same as the vanilla game. Spend money to try to get new figures, although I didn't have anywhere close to enough Starry coins. So screw it, time to attempt the Ultimate Cup ZX. I couldn't remember what copy ability I used last time, so I went in with Fire and hoped for the best. This new arena is one of the longest in the entire Kirby series. It's kinda nuts. Not only do you have to fight all the old bosses that have new and more aggressive attack patterns, but you also fight all the DLC remix bosses. And there's even a secret one at the very end that's hard as shit. I really like that an extra hard difficulty is accessible now. But holy crap did I pick the wrong ability. While Fire is nice because you can attack from far away, it's really weak and just doesn't do a lot of damage. The only benefit it has is that if you spray enough fire on a boss, the fire will catch and continuously burn them for a bit. But it just wasn't working very well. After losing at the very end, I was a bit upset, understandably, and decided to work on the X figures again. The best way I found to get more Starry coins was to replay the Crumbling Fiery Forbidden Land stage. I could get over 400 Starry coins every time, and it was one of the shorter levels to play. While it was nice to find a grindy level, I had around 7 hours to go and was starting to get slightly worried I'd run out of time. So after doing that for a bit, I decided to fully upgrade the Morphonite Sword ability, realizing how much more effective that would be for the Ultimate Cup. To do this, I still needed some rare stones, so I played through the Meta Night Cup a few times just to get them. I also upgraded the Fire ability because I figured maybe I'll use it if I'm not good with the Morpho Sword, and then after actually using it in the Ultimate Cup, that's when I realized that I should have just been using it from the beginning. I completely forgot that hitting combos heals you a tiny bit, which that alone was huge. damage. If I got hit a couple times, I could easily fill back up by just nailing a boss with some combo moves. With this newfound knowledge, I was able to take out the new Chaos Elfilus boss, which, I mean, just look at some of the shit he's doing. These attack patterns have somehow gotten crazier, and that is quite an accomplishment since the original bosses are already so spectacular. Once he was done though, I used my starry coins for more figures, and next thing I knew, I had all 86 and was done. I 100% Kirby in the Forgotten Land Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Starcross World in 10 hours and 35 minutes. It probably shouldn't have taken that long to do, but because I had to replay levels for Starries and wasn't using Morpho Sword for the Ultimate Cup, it added a bunch of time. And that's it! I had a little less than 5 hours to spare. With another marathon done, what's next? I picked a much easier one this time because I'm a bit intimidated for what's coming next.